Wuthering Waves recently had their 2.0 stream and there were a lot of wonderfully whimsical things to take into your eye spheres. One of those things was the showcasing of the world and the Carnevale a bit more, and there's something interesting about it which I don't think people have really mentioned. That is namely the idea of Carnevale in a historical sense and how that can potentially lay out the story from 2.0 to later versions. Let me explain. Carnevale takes its celebratory inspiration and continues them from old human traditions during their celebrations of levity and freedom. Most commonly, it's traced back to Greek and Roman celebrations of either Dionysus, the god of wine, or Saturn, the god of agriculture. However, there's also similar celebrations that can be seen in the Trinidad and Tobago Carnival, as well as the Brazilian Carnival, again taking inspiration from the Trinidad and Tobago Carnival. Specific to Italy in relation to this topic, Carnevale retains the ideas of freedom and celebration and pairs it with the iconic masquerade mask, providing even more discreetness as you can more freely celebrate or indulge in more taboo things and break social norms, like speaking with high-class people if you are lower than them. Let me give you some historical context though first, because what I've connected literally made my ball hairs have a carnival of their own. I could be wrong, but literally, it all just matches up so perfectly. I'd be surprised if they didn't go this route. So first, the interesting things come in at the historical time shifting of the Carnevale, and some of the historical aspects and celebrations tied to it. On the shifting of the date, it was before Christmas lasting until the beginning of the year, but things have since fast-forwarded to January 6th and leads up to Lent, the 40-day celebration of Jesus' resurrection. To put it in modern Gooner terms, Carnevale is like the time before No Nut November. You get out as much as you can with the time that you have left before needing to Chad Max all the lewd urges. Because after that, it's time to temporarily castrate all lewd thoughts and unholy thoughts of your favorite Oshi.
Denied! Stop! Getting pregnant! Stop!
During this angelic time of no fappy or plappy, you're to be as straight as the Baki fandom because your duty is to the Lord. Yujiro Hanma. I mean Jesus. It consists of fasting outside of bread and salt and studious religious discipline. This religious cycle of honorifics is meant to pay tribute to Jesus in his denial of Iron Mouse.
It is I, Satan!
Sorry, again, I mean Satan. Good Lord. Mimicking the idea of denying temptation as you Jesus had to do in ye old days. The other thing I want to mention too were some of the celebrations as a result of the Carnevale, as that also stood out as interesting to me. What it sort of signaled to me, with the very little knowledge I do have, is that Italy has some cultural roots in anti-authority. I mean, the Italian Communist Party was one of the strongest communist parties during its time, so yeah. But one of the celebrations is called the Ivrea Battle of the Oranges, where it is a reenactment of an old tale where the civilians barrage the knights and king with oranges every year. They sometimes make a fake king head and like mount it to a pike, and then they use that as like a prop. Anyways, this event is the echoing homage of the tale of Violetta beheading the tyrant king and the people overthrowing the castle. Not only that, but the Carnevale Viareggio in Tuscany, Italy is one that is centered around elaborate floats. These, as of recent, have been a way to satirize people in power as well as give allegorical nods to issues we have today, like the environmental decay through our waste. But how is this related to Wuthering Waves? Well, it's kinda obvious because Carnevale is the central theme. Carnevale is following in step with the depiction of the Italian Carnevale. Duh, I think we all know that. But since it is taking inspiration from that, I think Kuro is flipping the idea on its head. Remember, in real life, the Carnevale acts as a big hoorah before a time of austere and religious astuteness, Lent. What is Lent for again? The people acting and honoring a tribute to Jesus' resistance to temptation leading up to Jesus' resurrection on Easter. In Wuthering Waves context from the 2.0 prologue trailer, the Carnevale from 10 years ago led to a disaster.
Should your reckless actions anger the Sentinel, we risk disaster like that of 10 years ago.
But keep in mind, they do not say that it was a lament or a Thermodian threat. Could it be? Maybe. But based on the 2.0 stream, they have said that Rinascita hasn't been touched by the Thermodian yet, and as of now, the Thermodian is looking to be reawakened in some way. If we are to tie in what I gave you on the history, my take is that the Carnevale is a tool that will be used in two potential ways. One, potential political and cultural hegemonic shift against the status quo, or even a control tactic to impart the will of a powerful rich family. And two, through that defiance or accordance, a resurrection of a Threnodian threat that has taken manifestation from a potentially deeper underlying distress caused by greed. Oh my fucking god. Jesus, like take 30. Anyways, I've never mentioned this before, but I think the Wuthering Waves, the Lament, and the Threnodian are manifestations of human desires and concepts born from them. Huanglong and 1.0 to 1.3 was heavily tied into a manifestation of war and the impact it has. I think Rinascita will follow in a similar footstep where there may be a broader idea as a backdrop like war for Huanglong, and have that be the basis for what follows after. If you ask me, greed and things linked to that, sway over culture, societal consent and hegemony, economics and eco-commodification, and the world around you is what I'm thinking that backdrop idea will be. That will be the thing which is used to resurrect a powerful being, but instead of it being a good-willed savior, it may give us a destructive false messiah. As for the last thing in the events that I mentioned with the Battle of the Oranges or the Tuscany floats, well, obviously there's no guarantee in seeing these specific things, and as far as I know, they weren't in any of the trailers. Of course, correct me if I'm wrong, but I brought them up because they are cultural expressions typically tied to viewing the powerful in a certain way and conveying or celebrating their history. Perhaps the Fool's Troupe will put on performances giving nods to how the society in Rinascita actually feel about the state of affairs. I mean, Jinzhou had the hero plays, and I think that falls in line with their area being under volatile TD threats. They after all don't utilize echoes like how Rinascita does, so who wouldn't want a badass hero saving or protecting a nation constantly under monster threat? Anyway, to me, it all just makes sense after digging for a while and learning more about what Kuro is taking inspiration from. I also did a video some time ago explaining what Rinascita, the name, takes inspiration from too, and that actually got me really excited too, and it's one of my favorite videos that I've made so far. To say that I'm excited for 2.0 would be a huge understatement. Again, I could be totally wrong in terms of how I think the story will be laid out, but I'm feeling confident about it being told to us, if not in 2.0, then as we go along, 2.1 and beyond. We'll have to wait and see, and Yujiro Hanma, I cannot wait to witness whatever's behind the curtain.